Hello there, you beautiful people. Now, in the last video, you learned how to search the Linux manual for specific keywords, open up manual pages, and how to read them to learn how to use specific commands. But there was quite a lot of stuff in that video and a lot to take in. So in this video, what we want to do is we want to give you some practice. So in this video, we're going to take a look at a completely new command that we haven't seen before, and we're going to learn how to use it. We're going to search the manual for it. We're going to learn how to use it using the synopsis in the manual page. We're going to read through its various options, and we're going to try some of them out and see how you can customize commands and stuff like that. And the idea is that this is going to show you how to independently search for stuff using the manual. We're going to put the whole process together. We're going to take everything we've learned, put it all together, and show you how you would learn about a new command from scratch. And the idea is you're going to have the independence to search for new stuff and learn how it works, and that's really where the value comes from the manual. It's not having people randomly show you things that they find cool. It's being able to go out there and find stuff that you find cool and learn how to use it independently, and it's going to take your Linux abilities to a whole new level. So let's go ahead and jump into it and start learning about our brand new command. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at a command that will allow us to list out what is in a folder, also known as a directory. Okay, so we want a command that will list out a directory's contents. Okay, so now that we know that, let's go ahead and search for what might be available. So the first step is to search for what might be available in the manual. And you might have to try this multiple times, okay? You might not get the search terms available right away. You might have to try different words and different keywords, but let's try that. So let's type the man command, give it the K option, and now we tell what we want to search for. Now I'm going to put in quotes, list directory contents. Okay, and the reason I put it in quotes is because I want to search for this search term in one go. I don't want to search for the word list, then the word directory, then the word contents. I want to search for list directory contents in one go. Okay, so once I do that, I press enter, and here we go, we get some results. Okay, now they all seem to pretty much do what we want, right? They all seem to say list directory contents. But the one that I'm specifically looking for, I've heard about it online, is the ls command. Okay, now the ls command is one that we will come on to as well in a later section of the course, but we can see that it's a user command because it's in the first section of the manual. So we could open it using man1ls, but because it's in the first section, we don't have to even have the one. We can just type man-ls. And here we go, we're in the manual page for the ls command. So there we are. Now, right at the top, we can see that we're in the ls command. It's in the first section of the manual, which is apparently user commands, and we can see that the name of the command is ls, and it lists directory contents, and that's from the name section. Now, looking at the synopsis section, we can see that if you type ls, then you can have multiple optional options. We know they're optional because they're surrounded by square brackets, and you can have multiple of them because they've got the ellipsis after it, and then you can have multiple optional file names or paths to directories, and can have multiple of those because we can see the ... But the one thing that you might notice is because everything else is optional, right? The only thing you actually need to enter is the ls command itself, and it will work. So let's try that. Okay, let's try and see that. We don't even have to give the command any input. So if we press lowercase q to quit, we're back in our terminal. Now, as I said, the only thing we need to do is enter the ls command itself. So if I just type ls and press enter, we see that it has indeed listed out all the contents of our home directory, which is the directory that we're currently in. So how cool. Okay, now go back in the man page. Let's go back in the man page, and we can see in here that there's a whole bunch of options that we can use. We can look down in the description section. It says here that list information about the files, which is the current working directory by default, sorts entries alphabetically if none of these options or the sort option is specified, and mandatory arguments to long options are mandatory for short options as well. Okay, so that's fair enough. Now, we've got loads of different options in here, okay? Loads of them. Let me just scroll through. Loads of them, guys. Okay? So, memorizing all these, it's just not possible. Okay? Just don't even try. Okay? You're not going to be able to do all that. And even if you did, there are thousands and thousands of Linux commands, so it's kind of a waste of time to do it all. This is why you need to know how to use a manual page effectively. Okay? There's a whole bunch of options. One that I might like to show you, which is a good one, is the L option. Okay, now of course you can browse through these and have a look at what they do, but you've got the L option here, which stands for long listing format. Okay, so let's try that. Sounds pretty cool. Let's see what that means. So if I type ls and give it the L option, right, I press enter, we now see that everything is kind of listed in a much more detailed fashion. This was the output before, and this is the output now. Okay, so we've got much more detailed view of what's in our folder. Now I'll explain what this means a bit later in the course, but for now I hope you can see that the process that you might follow for discovering a new command. Okay, we've searched for it, we opened its manual pages, we browsed a few of the options, and we tried them out, as well as seeing how to actually use the command in the first place. Now let's have another look in. We can see that this is a bit difficult to read, perhaps. If we look at the ls command again and we scroll down, we can see that there's another option here called the H option, which stands for human readable. Okay, so you can see here we've got a short form option -H or a long form option --human readable, and this is how you can tell whether an option has a long form or not, because it will be right next to it in the manual page. Okay, do you remember when I said some options have long forms and some don't? This is how you can tell. And it says that with the L option and or the S option, this will print human readable sizes of files. So for example, 1 kilobyte, 234 megabytes, 2 gigabytes, etc. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Here, this column here is actually all the file sizes, and it just says 4096 or 8980 or whatever it might be. Okay, but to make that human readable, you can type ls-l and then give it the H option as well. And we'll see that now it's telling us it's 4 kilobytes, 8.8 kilobytes, and so on and so on. Okay, but as well, because we have a long form option, we don't have to just type H. We might type H, but we could also type --human readable. I think it was like that. Nope, let me check. If I type ls, it's --human readable. I apologize. Human readable. Okay, and there we go. Now we've got exactly the same output that we had before. You see, so you can see here the way we've used a long form option, which means now it's a bit easier to read what H, well, you know, what that means than it is to just see what H means. Okay, but it kind of makes the command a bit more difficult to type. So there's a bit of a trade-off there, but you get the same output. Okay, so you can see just how useful reading the man pages actually is. Now if we just go back into the ls command, okay, let me clear the screen, go back into the ls command and scroll all the way down, you will see a section. If we keep scrolling down, it's a long manual page, much longer than the which command, right? You'll see a section that is called see also. Okay, so this section here that says see also, it's got a hyperlink, and you can click on this hyperlink or any hyperlink that's in a manual page by holding the control key and left clicking. Okay, now if we control and left click, what that's going to do, if I clicked it right, we have to wait, I think. There we go, it's opening up. So I've clicked it multiple times, but it's opened up in the Firefox browser the link that was in there. Okay, so it's going to give you more information about the command as long as you have internet access. Okay, so that sometimes in manual pages there are links that you can click on. So there's another one here, for example, another one here. You can, if you hold the control key and click them, then they will open up in your browser and you'll be able to see what they're pointing at. So that's very, very useful, and that's something you'll definitely want to do if you want more information. And as a final note, although you can find pretty much information on pretty much all the commands that you'll ever need using the man pages, you can't quite get all of them. So some commands are defined directly in the shell and don't have man pages for them. So to find those commands, you will need to use the help command instead of the man command. Let me just show you what I mean, okay? So for example, one of them is the cd command. Now the cd command is one you will use all the time. Actually, it's used to change a directory. You'll see this in the next section of the course, all about navigating the file system. But if I type man cd, it'll say there's no manual entry for the cd command. But if I type the help command and then do cd, we then get something that's very similar to a man page, and we can see how to use it. Up here, we get a description, we get the options, and so on. It's okay, so it works pretty much just the same as a manual page. It's just you have to use help instead. Now, to find the commands that need the help command to be used, if you just type help and press enter, you get a big list, and every single one of these in here is needs the help command to see it. So, for example, here's cd. Okay, for example, if we do pwd over here, if we do man pwd, there actually is a man page for it, but if for one of those commands it didn't come up with a man page, you would just type help pwd, and it will give you basically the same, like a very similar kind of output. Okay, so if man doesn't work and you know the command is correct, use the help command instead. And there's a lot of other things in here, like for example doing while loops in the shell, for loops, and other things like that. Okay, so it's quite an advanced thing, more about the shell rather than about the programs that are installed on your computer. Okay, so that's just something to bear in mind. Now, another thing that has actually come to my mind, when we're in the ls command here, notice this works for pretty much all commands. Notice when we've got a long form, so for example almost all, or block size, or ignore backups. When you have a long form command like this, they tend to break up the words with a dash. Okay, so ignore dash backups, block dash size, almost dash all, or down here, full dash time, group dash directories, no dash group, human dash readable. Okay, so when you're making a long form option, if I wanted the human readable one, instead of going human readable like the mistake I made before, because human is one word and readable is another word, it's going to be human dash readable, and that gives us the output. Okay, so that's just something to bear in mind with regards to spelling and things like that. But the main thing to remember when you're reading these manual pages is each Linux command is designed to do one thing and do it extremely well. That's why you've got the ls command with so many different options. Anything that you can possibly imagine to do with listing things out of directories, the ls command is going to be able to do it. Okay, so that's why the manual pages have a lot of information. To really get the information out of that, unfortunately, if you want to become a master of the ls command, or even just start using any new command, there's going to be no shortcut to reading, unfortunately. I wish there was. You can skim read, and sometimes they give you quick intros and quick starts to commands and things like that in the manual pages. But for all these options, if you want to learn it, you're going to have to read it. Okay, so there's no other way around that. So that's how you will go through and you'll learn about a new command. So let's do it really quick, in quick succession. We wanted to learn about a command that shows you how to list directory contents. So we used man with the K option, list directory contents. It came up with some possible page names, the sections they were in, and the explanations. The ls command core RI, we noticed it was in the first section, so we just typed man ls. It gave us the manual page. We saw that, yes, it lists directory contents, we see a quick description, and we saw how to use it. You have to type the ls command. The options are optional, you can have multiple of those, and the files are optional, and you can have multiple of those. So we saw that actually you can just type the ls command and you get some output. But there were plenty of other options. There's loads of things in here. One thing that we liked was the idea that you could have a long form option. Okay, so the long form option, we found it, where is it? It's down here. We found it under L, use a long listing format. So we had a look at that. We do ls-l, and we got that. We also saw that you can have long form options as well. Okay, one other thing is that you can see here there's a lowercase a, which gives you one option, and an uppercase A, which gives you another option. And here you are, you've got a lowercase b gives you one option, and an uppercase B gives you another option. That's very common. So you need to make sure that when you are spelling things in Linux, you get the case correct. So for example, ls-l will give us that, but if I do ls-capital L, it didn't even do anything. Okay, but so you need to make sure that you get that stuff right. And just for curiosity, what does the capital L? See if there is a capital L option. Dereference. When showing file information for a symbolic link, show information for the file in the link. Show information for the file the link references rather than for the link itself. So there you go. Okay, so you need to make sure that you get your cases correct. Things have to be spelt precisely. You need to have a very sharp eye and not make mistakes and make sure you're doing stuff right. Because the power of these commands are so powerful. They can do so many different things, but you just need to make sure that you enter them correctly. Okay, so there we go. That's a quick summary of this video. What we're going to do in the next video is we're going to actually be moving on from the manual, and what we're going to be showing you is how commands take input and actually give output. Because one of the most powerful things that Linux commands let you do is to chain different commands together to make up super powerful command pipelines. Now, because each command is amazing at what it does. When you can chain them together, each of these separate commands, that is amazing at what it does, but chain them together, you can create some incredibly powerful functionality with very little effort. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that, but first we need to take a little bit of a look into how commands take input and give output, so you can actually start building together these command pipelines. You need to understand how they take input and give output. So for all that good stuff, I'm going to see you in the next video.